Okay, welcome everyone to day 3 of our Regenerative Roundtable. So let me stop sharing that. Pause this music. Actually, I was not meant to stop sharing that. I am meant to keep sharing that. Let me go back to that. Because we can go over what we're going to be doing today. So just a quick roadmap of our roadmap for today. First, we're going to have Anna Los guide us through a beautiful journey and visiting our future civilization that we're bringing into this world right now. After that, we have Javi leading a session where we're going to share in and dream together. So collectively, I mean, it really depends on how much we're engaged, how much we're loving it, you know, the creative flow and how this is unfolding, but it might take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. And then after that, we can do some quick polls that we've put together about the last 3 days so we can sense in of how this process is unfolding, how we see it going forward. And then right after that, we're going to get into the minimal viable roadmap. It's going to be pretty high level. And then we can discuss the general theory of where we're going and then open it up for the last half hour for discourse about the roadmap itself, how it's designed, the framing of it, if it's helpful, if it's going to help us, you know, better collaborate and sense in for the next 3 months, etc. So we're going to unfold that a little bit more. Cool. So before we dive in for today, does anyone have any feedback, suggestions about this particular journey? As in, do we feel like anything critical might be missing? Yes.
Oh, just a comment about that came out of at the end of the call yesterday was this connection with the water element. And for, you know, just some kind of, you know, 1 minute or half minute, let us connect with the water element and the flow and invite that into our time together to follow the flow of one share to the next, that we're listening into what's being shared and building on that. Just a thought.
Well, we could do that now. But also Anna Los is going to be, I'm sure, weaving some elements of that in. So let me pass it to Anna Los and she can kick us off today. Thank you, Satya, for that.
Thank you, Reiki, and welcome everyone. And yes, we can work with the spirit of water. I will weave that in, and we can also use that. You can use time as a river, so we can journey on the river of our thrivability, the river of consciousness, to bring us into this future civilization. Reiki, how many minutes about do I have for this guided process?
7 to 10, but it could be a fantastic journey, so don't think too much about time. But
you know what happens when we go out of time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Just making sure we don't get noise in the background. And there's lots of birds around me who are singing and making their nests. So it's a very sacred time of transitions. I love when we go on these journeys, because that's also what we're doing right now. We're going to be journeying into something that doesn't yet fully exist in this world here, but yet it exists in our hearts and it exists in our commitment, and therefore it is alive. Yeah, just the whole fact that we can feel it and that it inspires us and it brings us together. So to start, I'd just like you to all to just get present in yourself, in your body. Take a deep breath, breathing in and breathing out, just letting go whatever you were doing before. Just let it go, and just let it go and relax some more. Calling your consciousness and your energy and your awareness fully here and now. And as we do so, let us first start by a moment of gratitude. Gratitude to everyone who's been building this movement together. Everyone who's been dreaming this, conceiving this, working together, putting in ideas. Let's just send beautiful wave of love and gratitude to everyone who's contributed to where we are now. And if there are any grudges or tensions that we are holding towards anyone, I'm asking you to also just let them go now. Let them go. As we welcome love in our hearts, love in our minds, and love in our action. And understand that all of it is a journey of learning, of discovery, of explorations. Inviting the beautiful seeds, values of that courageous and loving and compassionate exploration and learning together, dancing together, being together. And from this place of appreciation, let us also honor how far we've already come to bringing in this future civilization. Really honor yourself right now for your own contributions to this, your commitments, your love, and how you are a future ancestor of this beautiful civilization that is regenerative by design, conceived to thrive and to bring joy and wellness to everyone. You are a future ancestor of this civilization. And just take a moment to acknowledge how these civilizational codes, this new way of being, this higher possibility lives in you. Feel where it lives in you. And notice how much space there is within you for those beautiful seeds. And if it feels in any way cramped or crowded, expand that space inside. Make it bigger. Give more space in you for this future civilization. With more space and more trust and more care. And as you grow that seed of this future civilization in you, notice how it grows between us and how it grows in our world. Because we are the seeds of this civilization. Seeds is a consciousness. Seeds is a wisdom. Seeds is a currency of love and care. And let that seed grow in you. The consciousness of that seed. And as you nurture that seed within you, and those who just join, go. Now feel that beautiful seed within you. Of the future civilization that is part of your consciousness already. And hold a very clear intention right now that your direct connection with the future civilization of a thrivable and regenerative world, more caring and compassionate humanity strengthens, flourishes, becomes stronger and clearer. And imagine now how from this future civilization, there's a beautiful, clear water, beautiful current, a flow, a river of consciousness that reaches out to you. And imagine how this river of pure consciousness, this river of care, of wisdom from this future civilization comes all the way towards you now. And imagine yourself in front of this beautiful, beautiful river. And put your hands in this water now. Put your hands in this water, and as you touch this water of life, the water of this future civilization, feel the quality of that water, the aliveness, its wisdom, its energy, and its incredible power to transform and to regenerate what is not in full harmony with the essence of life. So if there's anything you've been carrying or feeling within yourself that's heavy or not harmonious with your being, just give it to that water now, with the clear intention for it to be transformed and healed and purified. And thank this water of life that connects us all. And with this beautiful water of life from this future civilization, allow the water to share with you now, which can be in the form of a vision or a feeling or an idea. Allow it to share with you now what it needs you to understand, what it needs you to act upon, so that this future civilization can be born. And put your hands in a little bit deeper, still in that water. And bring this water to your mouth. Drink it. Drink this water of life. And as this water of life from our future civilization enters you, it evolves you, it informs you, it nurtures you. It brings also profound healing and clarity. And as your own inner water aligns with this beautiful water of life, you yourself become that quality of water. And bring your hands again in this water now. And now bless this field of seeds, our community of seeds, our projects of seeds. Everyone was part of this. Bless it with this water. Sprinkle this water over all of us here, all of our projects, all of our work together. And as this water of life from our future civilization touches down, it fertilizes, it purifies, it releases what was stifled, it relaxes, it harmonizes. and it nurtures. And it helps us to grow strong roots. And to complete this process now, share with the water your commitment for the co-creation of this future civilization. And bring that love and care into the water. And bring our consciousness now fully here and now, in support of the water within our worlds, within ourselves, all around us. And in support of our planet, Mother Earth. Imagine how we form our arms around her now. And remember why we are doing all of this, which is really important here. Form our arms around her now. And give her our unconditional love and support. As we stand united in the circle of life. And when you're ready, you may gently come out of this meditation by opening your eyes, just moving your shoulders, your feet, your hands, being fully present here and now. Thank you. Reiki, whenever you're ready.
I was planning on staying there for another 20 minutes, but so I will just pass it right to Javi and let him take over.
All right, let's come back. So I was invited in the last minute to take you in a dreaming journey, connecting with what Anelos just gifted to us. And the idea is very simple. I have a simple question for you. It's a generative question that we are going to use to guide the process. And we are going to do a collective storytelling process by answering this question all together. And the question is, what needs to happen in seeds so you can say this was the most nourishing way of spending your time and be proud of participating in this movement? And I'm going to invite you to a Miro board where you all will be able to start answering this question. And I will give you 5 minutes to answer this. And then you come back and we start doing a collective storytelling about it, where we're going to tell a story together. Okay? So basically, I need you to join the Miro board now. And when you start answering, and you can answer as many times as you want, and if you are in a cell phone, a smartphone, and you don't have access to Miro now, you can just write on paper, okay? Or anywhere else that you want, no problem. You don't need to write in the Miro board necessarily. And you go there and you answer already in the past, as if already happened. That's the game we're playing, okay? Everything that you are going to answer already happened. Okay, so connect yourselves with this question. What needs to happen in seeds so you can say this was the most nourishing way of spending your time and be proud of participating in this movement? And answer already in the past tense as if already happened. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes now. For this, if you want, you can put some music for us, Reiki, in these 5 minutes.
Please put the question in the chat.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
And maybe you can do a quick screen share so that for people it's clear how to. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Reiki.
Yeah, maybe just an example would be good.
An example, we created a decentralized financial system that distributed wealth for everyone. Yay! So this is an example. Anything that you can think that would make you feel nourished and proud of being part of this movement in the past. You can answer as many times you want.
Do I click on one of the colored squares and then type?
Yeah, if you are having difficulty using the software, please just write somewhere else, because the important thing is just so you organize the information now. But yeah, you just need to click twice and write. The important thing is the story that you're going to tell, not what is going to be written there, okay? What you were writing there is just to help you to structure your thoughts. So you can write anywhere else. Nice, lots of great stuff there. 1 minute to go. Okay, finishing up. don't worry about writing the stuff. The important thing is the story that you are going to tell now, okay? So come back here. Can you stop sharing, Raiki, please? Yeah. Come back here to our almost human space. That's how I call the Zoom stuff that we're using. It's the closest thing we have from a campfire where we're all together. And now please connect yourself with this amazing future that you are co-creating there now. We were using the Miro app. As I told you, it's not important that you write there. This is not important. The important stuff is what is going to happen now, okay? Forget about the Miro. You don't even need to use what you wrote there. That's how important it is. You're going to get in the flow of storytelling now. We are going to start doing a future conference. We are going to travel in time and see all of this great stuff that we have created already. And you are in this conference telling the story of how is it to be part of such a movement where you are so proud of being part of, that nourishes your soul and nourishes the earth and nourishes all communities. So I'm going to invite someone to start. This person is going to start telling the story as if already happened. And the person will try to remember as much of the person as the person can. And when the person finishes, it will say something like, and then other person will continue. So we are going into a flow, but there is a challenge here in this game we are playing. We have a common resource that we are sharing, which is time. So I need you to take care of this resource, of this common resource, so we don't fall into the tragedy of the commons. You gotta pay attention to the time you're going to use. Each one of you have more or less 20 seconds to share. So don't try to tell a full story by yourself. Say your piece, your short piece of the story, and say, and then another person will continue. Okay? If you take more time than it's available for you, you're taking the voice from someone else. Damn, that's hard, huh? So please, each one of you are responsible for this common resource that we have here. And at the end of 30 minutes, I'm gonna stop you because we have other stuff to do today, okay? So we have a 30 minutes time span of completely dreamy, juicy stuff that you are going to bring now to this table. And all of that you're going to say already happened. So please bring all your drama on, all your enthusiasm, and get into this show because this is the future conference, all right? So is everything clear for everyone? You start telling the story? Yeah?
No, how do you move from one speaker to the next?
The person will say, and then anyone else continues. Okay, it will happen that sometimes two persons will open the mic at the same time. I trust that we will self-organize. All right, all good. Let's learn by doing. So, Ryaki, do you want to start?
Not clear.
You will understand it on the way, don't worry. Answer the question, Ryaki. What needs to happen in Seeds so you can say this was the most nourishing way of spending your time and be proud of participating in this movement? Tell us, what happened?
I see us having our future regenerative roundtables in the middle of a really juicy, dripping with fruit food forest with the sun dripping through the leaves. And I imagine that we're going around the circle and then
we formed new and satisfactory forms of real democracy. And then
we were living the Regenaissance. Regenaissance at heart, it started, and then here we are in holograms.
And then
we took a deep breath and we paused and we listened for spirit to speak through us to the next person. And then
we started walking. Everyone started from our places to meet each other and to bring the story from one person to the next one. And then
I felt we found ourselves. We found ourselves in these beautiful gardens and farms together, and the fruits were more delicious than we could ever remember. And then
I felt truly connected and at one with my brothers and sisters, and safe to breathe, and safe to feel, and safe to unfold. And
then we were running through the forests with our friends and enjoying ourselves and having many adventures. And then
we had a safe space to be in. We had metrics about the resources available in Gaia, and we could act upon with those resources. Living was felt safe in many villages and places around us. We knew how much we could use safely for us and for the planet and for others. And it was just an abundant experience to connect with others. And then
all these many things let us realize that we didn't need currency anymore. And
then we began teaching our children and grandchildren that they were the whole. They were a reflection, a microcosm of the whole. And if they took care of the whole would take care of them. And then
I and others were full of joy for the people that we physically met already, and at the same time extremely excited about all the other people in seats that we didn't meet yet physically and that we're still going to get together with. And then
the New England Seeds community became so popular that people all over the world joined, and they began to use the seed currency as the global honest currency. And one of the projects was to mature capitalism into common good capitalism, and it had been accomplished.
And then we have incubated a new economy based on the infinite resources of wisdom, which in turn have shifted our value system from that of scarcity and the fear of entropy to the powered potentials of syntropy. And
then a group of children emerged from this food forest, and I overheard them talking about all the different coins they carried within them unicorn blood and the dust of fairies. And then
we connected to other beings besides our human beings with whom we share this beautiful planet. And then
we trusted ourselves and each other all the way. And fiat, what's that? And then
we remembered who we really are, and we started to believe in our ability to co-create together. And
then we reclaimed our sovereignty. And then
we built our economy around seeds and spores using the mycelium network and beautiful regenerative soils to start growing our new economy and our new food system. And then
we had discovered that the linguistic scientists have been wrong, that our skill of self-consciousness is not the result of a mutation, but it's a skill. And there's layers of maturity, the skill of self-consciousness. And in all the schools of the world, they now teach how to mature yourself up the layers of maturity to full maturity in the skill of self-consciousness as a skill.
And then we did something we never thought was possible. We co-created a truly regenerative financial system in service to the earth. And we lived every single day with the sounds of laughter in full joy. And then
a great miracle happened. Life returned to us all the beauty we'd been seeing. And something beyond our imagination took place. And then
the conference of indigenous elders from all over the world came together and declared that we are all indigenous, and that we had earned our right to experience all of the wisdom that they have been holding for us until this moment that we evolved into true indigenous people of Earth.
And then we realized that we were heartfelt poets and dreamers and painters and dancers and artists and musicians. And that was such a joy. And then
the crystalline mushroom flowers bloomed. And then
we created a gifting economy where everyone did what they loved and we couldn't stop laughing with joy because of it.
And then
we danced. And then
we sang.
And then we ate raw chocolate.
And then Mark Epstein developed a new tomato plant that when you ate the tomato, you just loved seeds.
And then we loved.
And then the nostalgia of Timothy Leary. And then
we paused.
And then we did an amazing gathering, a global gathering, splitting all the 5 continents where we could all meet each other, seeing face to face, and we didn't need computers anymore. We could just meet each other around the fire. We could enjoy our syntropic agroforestries regenerating everywhere that we were. And we even used seeds, not anymore as a mean of storing value, but only as a medium of exchange for communities that didn't even see any sense in that anymore. And then
and then we can heal and grow.
just finding our spirit.
We realized we could transmogrify and teleport anywhere.
And then we gave thanks. And we gave thanks to the wind, and we gave thanks to the fire, and we gave thanks to the water, and we gave thanks to the earth, and we knew who we were.
And then our ancestors were able to heal as we completed the dreaming that they started long ago. And then
we realized the technology that we are in the water gods that we are designed to be. And we became source and oneness in everything.
And then when we sat in a circle, we had learned the skill of knowing which person was to talk next. There was no interrupting, and there was always the feeling of moving as one and consensus as the container of the conversation.
And then we managed to convince the UN Security Council that the biggest security threat is humans not working together and not cooperating, not nuking each other.
And then we remembered how to ask for help, how to recognize help when it's being given, how to receive help, and how to be grateful for help. And then
it's because of the love we are, and we take care of our diseases and people that are, we do a global movement to help the that are in needs.
And then Mark Epstein on his farm developed a new kind of sugar where you could eat as much of it as you wanted to and it would be good for you.
And then the veil was unfolded, and we were all connected. And then
we realized that we were in the garden all this while, playing like the children that we just learned again.
And then we realized that those that have been silent have much wisdom to give us, and we give them voice.
And then we truly remembered, the original message was never divide and conquer. It was divine and conquer.
And then we regenerated the degenerated soil of our souls.
Then I remember how backcasting Regen era poet coming to life once again. And
then this lady at the entrance of the garden where we gathered asked us, what took you so long? And then
we listened. And then
we listened again. And then seeds spread all over the planet. And the whole place was green. And we could connect with nature and become new again. And then
the amusement parks were a way of learning.
And then we shared the rhythm of celebrating and also helping each other locally and globally.
And then we realized that we were living in paradise.
And then we learned to really tune into each other, and we learned to read each other's thoughts, and we get to know each other on a whole new level.
And then we realized that that time is now, and we are in this beautiful circle of co-creation and sharing and dreaming and problem solving and connecting. And this is what we signed up to do, right? This is what we're here for. I mean, I don't think there's a future civilization where we've stopped doing these things. But that there's other things we could do, like, and wait, that doesn't end that well, but, and then.
And then there will be a group of elders in the Seeds community that are truly recognized by everyone as elders, where there's a fail-safe experience that the elders are double checking what our organizations are doing and never directing anybody what to do, but always available to be helpful so that we never lose sight of our priority being the good of humanity and nature.
And then we told our grandchildren the story of how a portion of humanity had lost its way, and gave them cautionary practices to make sure that humanity never went that way again. And then
we remembered how beautifully Anna was dancing at our first regenerative roundtable, remembering this moment. And then
appreciating, having practice of appreciation of those who were bold and courageous and tenacious and determined and unstoppable in this journey to where we have found ourselves in heaven on earth.
And then it became exponentially clear. We no longer needed to fight for might nor battle for control. Quite simply, collaboration is key. We have unlocked the future and are free to wander forth.
Seeds would have inspired many people all over the world to form agreement nations, like Seed is an agreement nation. and the agreement nations would be stronger than the geographically defined nations. And the agreement nations will cooperate together for the good of the planet, while the geographic nations are still the utility districts that take care of the water and the electricity.
And then we never had to work for survival anymore. We could do whatever our soul called us to do, and having a clear knowledge of what needed to be done in very abundant sources of information. And we could engage in many leisure activities, travel, and go wherever we wanted. The world was very calm and never stressful, and we could always flourish and travel and enjoy each other without this rush. And then
we introduced indigenous plant medicines.
We played this thing called the game of seeds that brought our childlike wonder. And then
allowed us to live a life of contagious joy while exploring the mystery of being alive at the time of a great turning.
And then we understood the wisdom of the trees. And then
the survival of the strongest was no longer the message of the status quo. Instead, collaboration and mutualism was mainstream. And then
lovers, when they came together, knew how to sustain the joy of the oneness of love, and sex was only a language rather than a goal.
And then
we had well-being centers everywhere for people to go and get healed with all the plant medicines available and not restricted. And then
Simon was cut off twice, so I want to force a space for him. And then Simon went.
And then we stood united, and Moloch trembled. And then
we paused to allow for any voice that hasn't been heard yet to come forward.
And then we all lived in harmony with ourselves, with others, and with nature. And then
entangled with the non-humans.
And then, even when facing difficulties or the complexity of what it means to be human and all its messiness and its depth, we always created new possibilities for living forward while being different and even continuing to hold profound disagreement. We always found our way forward to this common dream of a regenerative civilization. And then
when we saw the different plants and forests and animals all over the world, we could enjoy their growth and their being and their future instead of having to worry how long they're still going to be here. And then
tears of joy. And
then we finally figured out in 2030 how to teleport ourselves through the mycelium network of the planet Earth. And then
there were no borders, and we stopped asking how we can survive, and we started asking how we can thrive.
And then the wounds of war and suffering and non-inclusion for those who are hurt and doing bad things ended. And then
the cosmic spirits danced with joy as they saw Earth had finally matured to a space of love and freedom that opened a new possibility for all the universe. And then
the rose blossomed.
And then we dream the world into existence consciously and meaningfully. And then
Hooray! And then,
And then, and then, and then, and then.
Then I think we've reached the natural flow of that. So part of that intention was to, when I've done this before, it's a little bit more visceral. It's a literal like stepping into the future and tasting it and feeling it. But I really love this approach too. It's the, yeah, so I really wanted us to start from that place so that when we go through the roadmap and we actually look at the tangible steps it's asking us for us to take together, we make sure it's heading in the direction we wanted to go and course correct, of course, if it's not.
Minimally.
A little bit of context on the roadmap before we start getting into it. It's definitely not complete. That's something I didn't necessarily share clearly enough about the relaunch proposal, is that is definitely not complete either. Both of these are coming from a very a limited perspective, to say the very least. There's some pieces that are there, but there's other pieces that are definitely missing. But those pieces could not have been brought in without, a community process to do so. So it's kind of like the spirit of both the relaunch, I think, was missing. All the economic reasons were there, but the heart and spirit of what the relaunch was about was missing. And that's because I don't think it was up for an individual or a small group to imbue that proposal with spirit.
Reiki.
Kind of the collective process we're doing.
Reiki. The people are asking for a minute to integrate in silence, if that's all right.
That's probably even better. I think I needed that too. So yeah, let's take a couple minutes and do that. I can even put on some music, so we can just sit here for 5. If you need to take a rest, go to the toilet, whatever. for those of you who made that suggestion. Thank you. Before we get going into the roadmap then, I did have a quick poll I wanted to take to kind of sense check what's happened the last few days. And it's especially useful to help inform what the roadmap is going to be about. So this poll is about the relaunch project that was announced. So there's a whole bunch of different questions, and these are some of the general sentiment that I might have been picking up and hearing. And I want to get a better idea so that we're not biasing it one particular way or another. So let me see if you guys can see this. If I click launch, can you all see the poll? So this is just really basic. It's what's the initial reactions to the relaunch project. There's a whole bunch of different answers you can put in there, and you can click multiple of them. So if multiple of these things are true for you, click as many of them as you want. So there's 10 different options in there. I'll just have one more moment for everyone to have a chance to answer that. All right, we'll give this maybe 30 more seconds for our folks to get all of their answers in. We've had 69% participation, so 11 more of you. There we go. Okay, I think it's a really good sampling. All right, so the highest chosen thing is I'm so excited to redesign what Seeds Launch could be and to create that. I love this. And yeah, so that's what I was essentially saying a little bit earlier is none of these proposals are complete. They are very much intentionally designed to be a co-creative process. I definitely didn't deliver that very well, which is the second most voted thing, which the delivery could have been different. Totally agree. And if I could make a request as, you know, a foundation for how we might treat, you know, playing here is, maybe this request, yeah, I'm gonna make it anyway, is have a bias towards more playful solidarity, because I do tend to see that when people come to bring proposals, it seems almost like they go into a defense mode. I've been doing this too, and I was feeling this. I've also noticed it happen outward and with others. And I think it creates a disincentive and a lack of joy to bringing proposals and bringing our energy to this movement if when that happens, it feels like an attack and a defense and this weird circularity that happens in that environment. So yes, I think let's constantly improve the delivery, and I got a ton of incredible feedback about better ways to do that. So thank you for gifting me that. However, it's just also been something that I've seen in the community. I will benefit from this, is that when we see proposals come up, for us to welcome that energy in. because that's what the movement needs right now. It needs more energy coming into it, more playful solidarity and collaboration and new ideas. And it'd be really beautiful if we could encourage this more rather than make it feel like a real strong effort to contribute in that way. What else do we have going on here? A good 30% don't understand it. So yes, that's definitely showing that we're going to need to do some more education on what this actually means, why we're presenting it. So for the next couple of weeks on Tuesdays, we're going to be using the Renaissance Explorers time to dive into the relaunch and actually start exploring that, because I think that's the most important thing on the docket right now is how we're moving forward. So that'll be a place of better understanding it, but also of co-creating it. So we'll be able to continue to evolve that proposal from now until we actually put it up for a vote. It needs a lot of work, absolutely. And again, very intentionally, a lot was missing because it's not up to us to be able to take that collective energy and be able to bring it into the proposal to make it what it could be. Even in that small couple weeks that I was with the few people that I invited to give feedback on it early in the process, it changed dramatically. And I hope that it goes through a similar transformation from now until we actually put it up for a proposal. And that's all a really good lead in for the roadmap today as well. Let's look at this poll one more time. If anyone has anything they want to add to this about the relaunch, if you have any burning piece of wisdom that you feel like you want to share with the community right now, feel free to put your hand up. Annalise, yeah, perfect.
Yes, I was just thinking, and I think you mentioned that 2 days ago, we could do something similar as with the Constitution. So when we work with the Constitution, we didn't fork a new Constitution. I know the forking is, of course, a technical term. It can be confusing. It was quite different. When Reiki brought to me the first version of the Constitution, I did a ceremonial process to thank it and thank everyone who contributed to that, and then gave it back. It's like you give it back to life, you give it back to where all these ideas are coming from. And then I asked from that future civilization, what's really the innate core structure of this that can bridge, that can take us into that can really serve as the bridge. In other words, the conceptualization and the seed for the Constitution that we're having now came from this future consciousness. Therefore, it's not a reaction, it's not a version 2. It really has its own coherence, its own integrity, its own purpose. So my sense is that if we really want a seeds regenerative seeds, but a regenesis of seeds, then it starts by being really aware of the patterns of human consciousness. Because if we go back in our cosmologies, we always find this story, how we come out of something, we're not happy with it, we create a second version. and then there is, tensions around that. And I think that part of seeds is doing it in a new way, that we don't repeat that pattern. So my suggestion would be that we could do assembly like we did with the Constitution, and then really asking ourselves from a future perspective, what does this future require in terms of the structure, the purpose, the governance, the coding, the DNA of seeds, and that we then lovingly let go of what in the current form doesn't serve. It serves to learn, but it just can't take us into the future, that we honor it for an experiment. So there's also no hostility towards Haifa, because I noticed that in some of the language, as if some people were seeing that as a control or seeds was created. And no, we really thank, we bless, we honor for everyone who came before us, that brought it to here. And then we really together from a place of unity and from wholeness, then can sense into what does seeds need to become, what's currently not there, how do we create a really balanced system. So that would be my suggestion, and I'm happy to facilitate that in a similar way as with the Constitution. And then we can work again with having the Google Doc and having lots of inputs, but that we really energetically get clear first, allow ourselves also the time and the space to do it, so that it really comes from the purpose that it's meant to serve. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much for that invitation, Amelos. That was beautiful. And yes, I would absolutely love to see us go through a similar process with the relaunch and the roadmap as we did the Constitution, to be able to weave in all that wisdom. I mean, the Constitution is just, it's amazing. I mean, it did take us 1.5 years to make, but I think it was definitely worthwhile. I don't know if we need to put that same level of effort into a roadmap, given that they're only for a 3-month period, but hey. So I do want to share a little bit of learning because I do think it was valuable. What happened in the last couple days, I expected a completely different response talking about a relaunch, because I was approaching it from like being renewed in a sense of new beginning, and it felt really good and alive, and I was excited, and I put it out there, and there's a lot of resistance. And then I realized a lot of that was coming from my own shit. I do think there's a big element of me feeling fearful and me wanting to, you know, maybe even exert a certain level of control or undue influence. Instead of saying this is a proposal that's really open to the community, I'm saying, you know what, I know this needs to happen. Like, I'm just wanting to do that heroic action. I heard that a lot, and I really started to think about it, that, you know, I had that view that, you know, being a hero is just a net positive, right? But maybe it's not. And this is something that I'm just coming to right now, is maybe we don't need more heroes, maybe we don't need any heroes at all, because it is a collective process. And whenever a hero stands out, it's just signifying that there's a systemic flaw. So that was really great for me. And I'm really loving this, like kind of smacking my ego around with the seeds governance. Like, some people have brought up that the governance system's not working. I think it's working fantastically, even though all my proposals are getting voted down, because I think some of those proposals are coming from a weird place. So it's constantly like causing me to have to, you know, reevaluate from what position I'm bringing this. So thank you all for that. And if I could do it all over again, I would have presented the relaunch totally differently. So thank you all for that feedback too, and expect to see some different approaches to proposals in the future. All right, so that's that share. Satya, Alan, Terry, let's take 5 minutes right now, and then let's make sure we have 45 to go over the roadmap. Satya, and John.
Confirm timing of
Oh,
what?
yeah, just to confirm, 1 minute each on this share?
Sure,
Sort of
yes.
Short? Okay, good.
Okay, so just a couple of things. One is, Anelos, I want to offer to work on design and facilitation of a process, and would invite others who have that expertise. I've been facilitating things for over 40 years, so I'm offering to do that and connect on that, and inviting others to step forward on the chat or however. And the other thing is that I really appreciate, Reiki, your acknowledging that if you had it to do over again, you know, do it differently. And the element of fear, you know, when you look at a situation that looks like this beautiful dream that we all have is not going to be realized if we keep going the way we're going, that can, I mean, that's a pretty scary place that, you know, to put yourself in. And you know, so I take that seriously and want to hear the case for why we really need to do a relaunch. That's my
And just acknowledge, really, Reiki, your transparency. Acknowledge and appreciate your transparency and vulnerability. It gives me permission, I think most of us permission, to do the same in our great life of learning here. So thank you.
Am I next?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'll go after you, Terry.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Reiki, I really want to understand fully, and I'm hoping that you could share something at some point, how the seed currency is going to have consistent value. Once it goes live, my understanding is that the value is going to be fixed forever, so that it won't fluctuate like fiat currencies does because of inflation and deflation, but it's going to be fixed. And I'd like to understand exactly how that's going to be happening. So if you could share that with me or with others at some point, I would really like to understand how it's going to actually work.
2-second response. Section 3 of the game guide on finance gets into the each protocol in detail of exactly how we intend to do that. However, how we actually do it is going to be up to evolution, because for all we know, those protocols are totally broken. It seems good on paper, but it's only going to matter when it actually goes out there in the wild. So how we actually do it is going to be something that we co-create here together.
Okay, I have read section 3 of the game guide a couple of times.
Then
That
we'll
doesn't.
take this to the Renaissance Explorers, because this isn't necessarily part of the roadmap.
I get it. Okay.
I'll answer that in another space. Alan.
Yeah, I can just reiterate the things that that people before me said to you, Reiki. So thank you for that openness. And I really want to make a case for making sure that we can prevent this confusion and people not knowing what's happening when we do this relaunch. And being vulnerable myself here, I'm not going to be able to do that myself. I can definitely provide some basic blueprints and ideas. I have them already, and so I've talked with people about them already, so that's good. But of course, if you want to have this knowledge garden, yeah, let's not be so technical. Let's just call it a knowledge garden where people know where they can go, what they can do, what's happening. It needs to reach really deep and kind of every corner of the seeds ecosystem. And it's going to need help from Haifa initially, because Haifa has a lot of knowledge, obviously, about seeds. So yeah, basically this is an admission of mine that I can't do it alone, and I'll need help from different areas of this renaissance. And that I think it's essential that we know what's happening. It's a part of governance for me. Governance cannot work, in my opinion, if people, or let's say the governance we want cannot work if so many people don't know what's happening so often. So yeah, that's mine. Thank you.
A quick response from me there. I think this is what's so important about both the Renaissance Explorers and the Seeds Commons that are forming right now, as those are two spaces and containers specifically designed for processing and disseminating information. So I do think we need those containers. As we saw with the announcement of the relaunch proposal, there's so much information. Having to understand what an actual fork is, how the blockchain works, what are we actually talking about? Okay, tokens, that's an entire world all on its own that's being, underground, the regeneration that we're talking about, redesigning economic systems, how do we vote? Like, it is overwhelming. And that's why I also think, delegating voices is going to be really, really handy of a tool going forward, because then we're not expected to know everything across all boundaries. We delegate all our voice to the technical stuff, to the person who's overseeing the technical questions. And we just really trust this guy as a blockchain wizard or whatever, and then I can give my voice to him on the technical things, and I could worry about the things that I care about. And I think that's really important. And then that way, wisdom can start concentrating in little nodes of trusted groups that are then representing people based off that information. So we call it like ultra liquid democracy, where you can delegate your voice multiple times to multiple different people based on the topics that are being governed and talked about. There's so much I want to share with you all the time. Okay, let's get into this.
Thank you, Reiki, for your answer.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking it. And it's so important. I mean, it's like there's so much going on. So that's why we have the Renaissance Explorers were the ones helping, put together this roadmap. So we've been using some of our space and time there. And that's, showcasing what the Renaissance Explorers as a do wants to be bringing to the seeds ecosystem is, capturing wisdom, making it obtainable, whether that's through video format or graphics or documents or whatever it is, and trying to share that information so that other people can know. Because that's the other, element we're talking about here. I mean, we talk about decentralization and transparency and everyone can be involved, et cetera, but having 1 million videos to watch is basically the same as not being able to watch any of them at all. So if you don't know where to go for the information, you're basically in the same position as not being able to have access to it at all. So that's why it's so important for us to really focus on how we disseminate that information, make it obtainable. And it's going to be a long journey. And unfortunately, it's been kind of spitting a lot of people out who aren't wanting to dive into the weirdness of the chaos that is seeds right now. And I think that's totally okay and healthy, because we're still in that DNA stage. And the people who are wanting to, form the DNA and get into the complexity of how you design DNA, that's a subset of people who really want to get into those nuances. And I think that's okay. I don't think we have to, judge ourselves in any way to say, oh, this really beautiful person got too overwhelmed and left. That's entirely fine. I think they're going to come back in when it's ready for them and when we're mature enough for them. So that's what I want to, get into a little bit today is, developmental stages of an economy. Before I had it really simple, run, walk, crawl, jump, etc. And the reason why I do this is it helps put things in perspective. If you're looking at your, a child who hasn't even learned to walk yet, but you're judging them based on their ability to jump, then you're going to think that child's retarded. You're going to feel like that child might be broken or it's incapable. And, that's only going to demotivate the child even more. And it's going to have developmental issues and all sorts of problems are going to happen when that child really needed to be learning how to crawl, not, learning how to do a 100-meter sprint. And I think that same thing, applies to seeds in so many ways. For example, using seeds as a day-to-day currency, that requires a certain level of maturity that we haven't reached yet. So when we, evaluate seeds based on its ability to meet our day-to-day needs, it's not able to do that. And if we expect it to do that, then we have unrealistic expectations and those are going to cause frustration. It's kind of, the best example of this is with Bitcoin, actually. A lot of people early on thought Bitcoin was a currency. They'd come in and say, hey, I can't actually use this to buy anything. It's useless. It doesn't actually serve a purpose. It took Bitcoin a really long time for it to change its identity away from actually being a currency to being a store of value. So then it needed to change the expectation that, no, I'm not actually for, buying a coffee with, I'm just for a hedge against inflation or, the new stories that it created. But that caused a lot of conflict in the early ages of Bitcoin, seeing that, dissonance between what people thought it was and how it was actually behaving. So I think that's really important in seeds too, how we're communicating communicating what this ecosystem is about at each one of the stages of our development is so important, because that's helping set expectations. It's helping us focus on what's important at that stage. A child needs to be learning how to crawl before it learns how to walk, and we really focus on the crawling, right? But I made it really simple because I think that's necessary, but I highly actually recommend diving into this slideshow, and it goes through the developmental stages of humans. And it's such a beautiful map for how we could evolve and how we could be thriving humans. And the more we can understand the human developmental process, the more I think we could, tease out the different stages of the ecosystem and how it's evolving too.
That's cool.
All right, before I keep going, is there any questions on this framing or any quick feedback on, breaking up seeds into very specific stages of life? No, okay. Final thing, this is just, it's a primer, the big picture. What are we actually trying to achieve? Regenerative civilization. And it also helps shift our framing. When I did the relaunch, that was coming up too. People are like, well, what's the actual point? Like, no, the point is we're here for a currency, a day-to-day currency. That's what we're about. It's like, well, maybe, because a currency is just a way of creating an economy. Like, we're not here because of currency. Well, at least my perspective is I'm not here because of a currency. I'm here because creating a new economic system to fulfill this layer, to fuel regenerative agriculture systems. That's so important. It's something that we've been missing so far. Seeds started off as a currency for the local food movement. We've kind of gone a really roundabout way of getting ready to actually serve that, but we're not doing that quite as effectively as we need to be. So that's got to be in our roadmap. How do we connect with the local food movements so that our economy is built off of, regenerative agriculture? And then of course, a huge thing we're doing here is decentralized governance and learning how to do collective intelligence and how to actually process information and coordinate at scale. So we don't know how to do that yet. So a large part of what we're doing here is we're exploring that. It's certainly no wasted effort. That is one of the reasons why we're here, is that evolutionary process. And then of course, at the heart of all of this is the well-being of people on our planet. And that's our communities too. You know, why am I on this call? Like, why are we actually getting together in sessions? Are we coming together because we want to individually evolve? Is that part of what we're actually doing together? So then our own developmental process then becomes part of this journey together. And we bake that into our roadmap too. Like, how are we progressing in our own development process? So yeah, that's a little bit of the framing. Is we're doing a whole lot more than just trying to create a currency. But the currency plays a function, and that function changes at each one of the stages of its life, which is there we go. So I think this is really helpful framing, and it also puts into context a little bit of why I thought we needed a relaunch, and maybe helping understand this a little bit more is gonna paint a bit bigger picture. So what's the first purpose of the seeds currency? It's to help us bootstrap and capitalize our community. So we're designing seeds in the initial stage to be an optimal building value currency. Someone changed my, anyway, that's fine. This is the best part about having a open edit document. Every time you go through it, words are different, which is fantastic. Anyway, so the first function of seeds was actually meant to be an optimal store of value or a building value currency. So that's why it was really intent. And this is what we keep talking about fixing the economics. Like the initial economics of seeds was meant to be something to really grow in value. And to do that, it needed to be more scarce than the things that it's trading against, such as the US dollar, for example. So we needed to have more people wanting to buy it than there were people selling it. It's really important to keep that relationship tight so that people can start building trust in this currency. If they come and pay, 5 cents for it, but then they go to trade it out and they can only get 3 cents for it, that's going to be a massive loss of trust, and they're not going to want to participate in this community anymore, or they're not going to have faith in the currency. So I think that's really important for us to be mindful of this, the stage that we're in, and designing seeds to be that optimal store of value currency. Because in order for it to be a medium of exchange currency, you need liquidity. You need a lot of people willing to trade it. You need a lot of organizations and businesses willing to accept it as a currency. And we don't have that network effect yet. So we need to be aware of that and put that in the later stage of our development, which is after go live is when that's meant to be the main focus. So yes, first we want to focus on it being an optimal store of value. So then people are wanting to buy it. And then when people are buying this currency, we're using those proceeds of selling seeds to fund the seeds commons and all the different organizations and people who are wanting to help build seeds, which is work on all of this. So when people are coming in to buy seeds, they're saying, yes, I want to support all of the research and development going on with learning how to do decentralized regenerative governance systems. I want to support regenerative economic systems and the development and research happening there. I want to support regenerative agriculture and supporting those systems. Like, that's people who are coming in to buy seeds. They're saying, I want to support all the great work being done here, and I get to own a share of this in the process. Cool, this is me pledging support. And instead of making a donation where you get nothing back out, now you get to buy a currency. You get to own the change. So that's kind of the slogan, so to speak, in these beginning stages is, finance the change. So seeds is a currency for financing the change that we're trying to create here. People buy seeds, those proceeds go to feed the seeds commons and help us progress and build stuff and start paying people a wage that are contributing to this ecosystem and all these lovely things. And this is why I thought we needed a relaunch, because when you look at the sale right now, it's not very active. And we have what I like to call a seller's market, where a lot more people are trying to sell the currency than are trying to buy it. Because for a while, we started issuing a lot of the seeds currency out there and saying, hey, here's some currency. Thank you for contributing. And then you could sell seeds and you can use that to, pay for your rent and buy food and all the things that you need. So then people were accepting seeds and then turning around and trying to sell it. And we had a lot of people accepting seeds and wanting to turn around and sell them. I don't need to get too far into that one, so I'll stop there. So yes, first stage of seeds is where we're down here. We're trying to grow the value of that currency and we're trying to have an optimal store of value. And some of the information we could be putting out there about what's the point of seeds, it's you're financing the change you want to see in the world. When people are like, well, what can I do with seeds? I was like, well, you can invest in other organizations, you can plant them to unlock different benefits, you can start trading it amongst other people. It is a free to use currency. It's still better than free because it's building your contribution score. That's awesome, but that's not the main thing we're telling people to do. We're saying you can come in here and finance the change. And a sense check of how I'm speaking. This is just my perspective. I want to make that clear. So I'm saying this is how we're doing it. This is just how I see us doing it. So if you don't agree with this, awesome, come in here, put a comment, bring your wisdom to this. Let's keep evolving it. So this is not fixed, foundations. This is just one perspective about how we can go about this. And to add a lot more complexity, because we all love more complexity, right? The relaunch project actually offers us the opportunity to do a both and. And that's something really interesting that came up in the recent discussions, is that we can actually launch Seeds 1.0 to have the harvest. So we can kick it off right here and say, cool, let's start these protocols now, and let's start seeing if we can stabilize, Seeds 1.0 around 10 cents and see what that actually looks like. Can we do that? Are these protocols working? And I think we'd learn a lot. And then we can keep Seeds 2.0 starting back down here and doing the original store value one. So then, Seeds 1 is a medium exchange currency and Seeds 2 is a store value currency. And we can kind of have both those narratives running at the same time. So these are different ideas that we can play with. Okay. So that's one, important part that just differentiates each one of the different stages, is the story of the Seeds currency itself. All right, now I'm going to go high level to give you guys a little bit bigger of a picture, and then I'll dive in deep a little bit more, and then we'll have some time for questions. So I did 5 stages to start, but there's going to be a lot more, and the later stages get more and more fuzzy, as you could expect, because we're not necessarily going to know what to expect until we get there. So the earlier stages have a lot more detail to them. So I'm saying right now we're in landmark 3, arbitrary terms. We've hit 2 landmarks already. Who is our current audience? We're looking at the innovators. These are the people at the cutting edge of the regenerative renaissance. They really get this, they see this vision. Basically everyone here on this call, it's people who have showed up being like, yep, I've had this dream, I have this vision, I know what this is about, I'm ready to dive in. Awesome. That's our community, and that's totally fine. Let's not try to design for the late majority. Sometimes I see that effort coming in here where we're like, hey, we actually need to design for people who don't use computers at all. And it's like, maybe, like that's definitely important to involve them. But if we start trying to design our systems to, include the late majority, we're going to completely forget the innovators, and we're not going to get there. We're going to stall and run in circles. So this is some primary focus. And again, if you feel like there's a different primary focus to focus on, please just put a comment here and we can align on different things. But what's really important right now is research and development. Our governance systems aren't quite working. They need to be evolved a little bit more. That's something we could be really focusing on. So not necessarily focusing on getting people to use seeds as a currency, unless people are really active on doing that. Let's make sure our governance system's actually working. Let's be running some more experiments. Let's be designing these tools a little bit better. So that's the other side, is diverse experimentation. We don't know what the new economic system looks like yet. We need to be able to start having a lot of different experiments running so we can learn a lot faster. So we can evolve a lot faster, which is the next step, rapid protocol evolution. So in this stage, things are pretty chaotic. It's the DNA forming stage. Things are very different, and a tiny change could have profound impact, 10 years down the line. We're looking for that economic viability, so those nice foundations, and the most generative partnerships. So some of the key people and groups that we want to bring in at the stage, because their wisdom is foundational and really important to have in the DNA stage. So, what differentiates, the stage we're in right now, where we're running diverse experimentation, rapid protocol evolution. This is not possible in a stage 4 post go live steady state economy, because after go live, when businesses are actually using seeds as a day-to-day currency, maybe they're even pricing their goods and services in it. People's livelihoods might be dependent on seeds. We don't get the luxury to have rapid protocol evolution and crazy experiments anymore. So we only have that luxury right now. And I see this effort to try to race to that more mature stage but we're going to be shooting ourselves in the foot, because if we get to that stage where we have a day-to-day currency and people are depending on this and their livelihoods are dependent on this, like, we don't want to rush there until we have the right protocol. Otherwise, we're trapping ourselves, or we're going to cause a lot of harm. I mean, you've already seen the response with talking about a relaunch. Like, a lot of people are feeling harmed by that. And that's very difficult because we're still in these really early stages where we need to be changing very quickly. We need to be trying a bunch of different experiments because we don't know. And if we don't allow ourselves to change very quickly, then it's going to take us 10 years to evolve to the economy that we really need to be having, right now. Again, very strong opinions. It's just kind of how I'm saying it. So that's where I'm saying we are today, is just setting better expectations of what it is we want to focus on, which is what we get into next. If you want to read a little bit more about the seeds as a currency thing, you could read it here. So we say, like, what are intended optimal financial behaviors? So when people come in here and they're saying, what can I do with seeds? What's the point of all of this? You could be saying, yeah, you know what? Acquiring and holding on to them and planting them is a great thing to do, because this is contributing value to the ecosystem. It's saying, yes, you're supporting these, research and experiments going on. That's a good way to, support the regenerative renaissance, is to just hold on to them and plant them. So this hasn't been voted on yet, or at least to my knowledge, it's not passed, is to do that 30% cutoff date. So we had talked about doing a proposal, or the planted seeds you put in there, you're getting a 30% bonus. So that's something to do with the currency right now. But in this stage, ideally people are just buying and holding on to them. That's actually what's going to be most beneficial for seeds in the early stages, is just people buying and just holding on to seeds, supporting the system. Cool. So movement building focus. So I have these different sections. Well, not I, Renaissance Explorers actually created these. The different sections for the different elements of seeds. There are gaps missing. So seeds commons focus right here, there's nothing for it. And I'm sure I've missed some components. But what this is helping give us a shared compass to focus on. So when people are coming in here and they want to support with movement building, we could say, great, head over to the roadmap, look at what stage we're in, check out what we're doing at this stage of development. So what's important for our movement building right now? Structuring our commons globals dues.
Ricky,
yeah.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, sure, sorry. How's this? A little bit better, or should I do 200?
Yeah.
At the 100%, right next to it, the tab, just click on the arrow and you should be able to go to 100.
That's fine. That's great.
Cool.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the big critiques lately is we're not coordinating very well. We're not, decisions are a little bit difficult. There's a lot of groups. They're not necessarily organized. That's alive and well, because we're in this DNA forming stage. So we kept trying to skip developmental stages. We wanted to go to, rapid growth. We're bringing in 100,000 people, and that it was something alive on our minds, and we were wondering why that wasn't happening. But it's because our foundations weren't set. We didn't have foundations in place to welcome in 100,000 people and help them feel at home and have an ambassador that's going to be able to walk them through a process and feel, a joyful experience here. We didn't have different commons dues set up for people to go and create it. There was only Haifa for a long time, and Haifa wasn't actually for everyone. It couldn't be. It had one culture. So a lot of people showed up and said, oh, I can't create in Haifa. There's nowhere else for me to create. Well, I'm just gonna, drift off then. And that was a really big shame. So I think that's the #1 focus for our movement building efforts right now, is setting up these different commons organizations, which we're already doing with Renaissance Explorers, Samara, STARS, etc. The second one is, after these are set up, then they're financing themselves through the seed cell. So that's the second one, is this is where the growth starts happening, and the storytelling is like, hey, you can participate in the sale, which is where this pairs in with the relaunch. Because if we relaunch and we reoffer that, 2-cent price, which I think is that could reinvigorate the sale. So that's the idea of the relaunch, is actually reactivating the sale, re-enlivening it, so we can potentially get the funding through it we need to start financing the commons dues, so we can create a sustainable system here. The next big one is networking with other ecosystems. So this is other large groups that already represent hundreds of organizations or thousands of different people, et cetera, that are already working on, systems change, regenerative renaissance, et cetera. Let's partner with them. So this isn't necessarily, focusing on setting up local scale pilots yet. This is large scale partnerships that we want to have at the foundation of Seeds, which is also really interesting with the relaunch, because we didn't set up those foundational alliances yet. About 2 years ago, we had 500 organizations or 400 and something apply to be an alliance partner with Seeds. But over the last 2 years, I think we've had maybe 50 alliance proposals actually go through. So we've missed out on, another 450 organizations that wanted to partner with us. So that's one other element with the relaunch, is that if we can relaunch, bring it back over, and then re-invite all of these alliances to come in at the foundational layer, then they feel like they were here from the beginning, and they were here from the beginning, and it's more, our ecosystem rather than this thing that we brought to them, right? So that's another big focus for movement building right now. And then running campaigns to invite other people. And then as you go through the next stages, you actually see, maybe I'll just show an example of that. The evolution and progression of the movement building focus. So I'll look at after go live to give you a comparison. So after go live is when we're looking at Seeds as being an optimal medium of exchange. It's a better than free currency. We have liquidity. We're trying to start stabilizing it right now. We're wanting people to exchange it. This is when we're saying, yes, start pricing your services in Seeds, start using Seeds as your day-to-day currency, go get your cafe on board. Like, Seeds is the currency that we want. So then what does movement building start looking like? We're onboarding businesses. That's the main focus, and organizations to start using Seeds as a medium of exchange. Even showing them how a unit of account is better in Seeds, because inflation right now for the dollar and other currencies is crazy. So if a business isn't updating their prices to increase their prices, 10% each year, then they're going to be making less value year over year. So it's called menu cost for that. So we get to go and say, hey, actually, it's way better if you start pricing your stuff in Seeds, etc. So that's kind of see the evolution here. Where in the early stages where we're still at right now, we need to be working on our foundations rather than looking at what comes next. All right, what time do we have? All right, I'm going to give only 4 more minutes. We have some time for questions. Let me see if I can try to wrap up at least one section. I'll make it bigger again for you all. All right, so moving through this. So research and development focus. So this is, what are we actually developing right now? Maps. So it was brought up at the beginning of this call. It's really alive. Like, this is an enormously complex system. People are wanting to show up and they're like, yep, I get it, I love it, but I don't have very much time. What's the best way I can support? What we need is just really short articles that grab their particular attention and give them a step-by-step guide about how they can actually participate and get involved. So if they're coming here because they want to set up a local circular economy in their region, awesome. Here's a step-by-step guide for setting up a region in your community. Like, step 1, meet with your local cafe, tell them you want to run an event, invite all the change makers in your community. Like, make it really, really simple for people to show up here, participate, get involved. And the DAO component of us making this roadmap is this is actually outward signaling to the other organizations and people who want to create an organization what Seeds wants and needs. So when someone shows up, they're like, hey, I really want to support Seeds, but I don't necessarily know how. We can point them to the roadmap. They can go in here and be like, oh, you know what? I love making articles and maps. Sure, I can get involved with this. Who's doing it? Oh, no one's doing it right now. Well, maybe I should start doing it. And this could be the evolution of that, where people can see where they can get involved. Next, research, reflect, and redesign. So this is where, the relaunch is actually really alive too. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years. Let's integrate that learning in these foundational stages and relaunch, or, maybe not necessarily relaunch. We don't have to word it that way, but let's evolve. Let's upgrade. Let's update our systems to include that wisdom so that we have a little bit healthier of a foundation. And the other real big thing before we want to move on from this stage is, ratifying our Seeds guide. So we ratified the Constitution. That was fantastic, epic effort. We want to do the same thing with the guide, so then we have clarity on what we've actually agreed to, and then we can start using the governance process to update the guide. Okay, I'm going to pause it now because we only have 15 minutes left. And if I don't stop, I'm just going to keep going on forever. Actually, we could take a real quick poll. So I can see everyone. We have a choice. We can open it up right now for some Q&A, lively discussion for the last 15 minutes, or I can keep going over that roadmap and just delivering information as much as I can. So you can decide what you'd like. Do a thumbs up if you want to just keep going over the roadmap, or do a heart if you want to open it up and just start Q&A session. Just do it a couple times because it'll disappear. So I just keep clicking it so I can keep seeing them at the same time. Darn, looks too split. I'm feeling like we might be a little bit more biased to the hearts. So let's open it up to some Q&A. Yeah, so if you have a question, if you have any feedback, comments on that, just put your hand up. To close it up then, because I didn't feel like I actually did that, I'll take one more minute to do this. Each one of these sections is mirrored in the sections going forward, and only the first, 2 stages up to go live are actually semi-formed. And again, a lot is missing. And you see every section ends with a trailing number. It's welcoming you to add something to it. Or, highlight, make a comment and say that something doesn't fit or doesn't belong. So we can really come in here and start adding our wisdom to create this together. The other last section that's really important is setting expectations on who's the primary funding source for seeds right now. Like, where is the money coming into seeds from? And in the early stages, it's my intention at least, is that the primary money is coming in from individuals, because this is going to give the most upside if we succeed. And I'd much rather see a distribution of wealth in this new system to go to, on the ground regenerators and people, rather than, institutional investors and people who are already really wealthy. It's really important to bring them in too. Like, everyone needs to be part of this renaissance, but it's in stages, right? So you actually see, as we get to the different stages, how our focus on who might be funding it kind of shifts and evolves depending on where we're at in that life. And then at the last of it, it's some signals that we might be ready for the next stage. So this is the stage right before go live, and here's our go live targets, is that we have more than 1 million people and 5,000 businesses on board, etc. So setting these and working our way backwards is maybe even a better way of going about it, because we say these are the signals that we know that we're ready, and here's all the steps of how we're going to get there. The rest of the roadmap. Cool. So I'll leave it at that, and then Amanda, you've got your hand up, so I will pass it to you.
Hello. Thanks for that, Reiki. I have a suggestion, and I wanted to just comment on this idea of networking with ecosystems and global initiatives. And so at the moment in the UK, there's so much happening, around donut economics and an action lab. What's happening in Devon is really cool. And so I'm trying to create this little tiny example of that here in North Yorkshire. In the place that I'm at. Alternative UK, I'm just throwing these initiatives out there, but Alternative UK, Transition Town, Incredible Edible, Findhorn up in Scotland. And so these amazing global initiatives, really incredible opportunity, because I'm speaking within them and there's an interest in seeds to be incorporated. But it's like, how do we, and I have a very fractal, like tiny opportunity. When I say tiny, I mean way of demonstrating it, sharing it within, first of all, 30 individuals. So I'm looking at how to explain it, donut economics and the circular economy to all these individuals that where, this local food movement that's happening here. And how we can share, we're growing, we're cooking, and we're eating together locally, which is really fun and really ace. And I just think it's ripe for seeds, and it's ready for some kind of exchange like that. And so the offer or suggestion I have is that, Donut Economics, their deal, their action lab, might be a really good format or a way for us to share tools. There's some beautiful graphic designs and artwork and people thinking of how to graphically represent, visually represent these very complex ideas and ways to get people involved in circular economies, which is basically what, you know, Seeds is serving. And I have this really great opportunity, and I really would love to be a test case or a little action lab here in the UK. But I just wanted to share that. And if you'd like me to share some of the other initiatives and links, I could do that as well. But the Donut Economics Action Lab, they're tools that might be really helpful. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you. Yes, so this is something that, you know, if Seeds is decentralized, we need to create the right frameworks for anyone on the ground to be able to have the process to be able to integrate those partnerships, run pilots, and support their communities. So Amanda, you're on the ground, you're seeing that. Like, this is something that, you know, maybe Seeds Commons might work on, or movement building do, or whatever group's going to be set up to be able to give you support to say, yes, we'll come in here. First step, you know, get them a lion's share. Let's give, you know, Findhorn, definitely, those guys are incredible. First, let's make sure that they get an alliance share so that they have a share of this and they're growing with us so that they're part of the community. Second, we can run a campaign with them so that they can invite their audience and their community to be welcomed in. So that's kind of the reason why the alliance share and the campaign, they both exist. And then right after that, I would love to learn from that pilot. So you're walking through the steps of how you might have set up a circular economy there. Let's make that a pilot, and let's get you, and this is what I would really love to see happening with the Seeds Commons too, if we could start getting funding, let's get you some resources for you to be able to dedicate real time towards running that pilot and documenting that journey and how it's working and blueprinting it. So that's part of the research and development stage we're in right now, is people are wanting to start using Seeds as a local currency. Let's do that. Let's be clear that these are pilots. We are experimenting with this. We're intended to learn from these pilots and evolve when we have learned. And we're creating blueprints for how we could, you know, duplicate these, the successes that we find. So yeah, I mean, I would love for you to be able to get support doing that. And you've now put it out there. So if anyone wants to support Amanda too, and this is something that excites you, like, definitely reach out to her and let's find a way to, like, make this happen. Was that helpful? Or
yes,
yeah?
Thank you.
Cool. Ari, you have your hand up.
Yes. So I would like, though I missed most of it, but I have gone through the document previously, and what I would like to ask, the question is to the community, not Reiki, community. We've had 2 years of this Seeds growing, and where we've reached and we've amassed a lot of learning lessons. And as Danny pointed, it's time to stop, pause, reflect, thought, rather than push Seeds 2.0 in November. Definitely no. That's October, November. No, that's not really good. Secondly, like the design itself, how much of the design have we really looked into from the learnings? That 2 years, what are the patterns that have emerged? Have we amassed it? One of the pattern I would like to make it very explicit for the community over here is that this harmonious communication pattern, which is not at all, heart to heart, but operational minded, kind of a way. And that's why I have a little bit of tension with the MBCs. So just wanted to share that.
Did anyone else feel?
So I'm not clear on what the question is. There was a question that he had to the community to ask. Can you articulate that? And can we, if you have one, and so we can do a poll, or I'm
Sure.
not sure how to.
Sure. So the question is more like, as Danny was suggesting, it's time for us to pause, a deep pause, like March 2022 pause, that kind of a pause, March 2022 pause, so that in between we get 6 months to digest, take it slowly, go inside, go within, but at the same time, have a much more harmonious communication pattern of Zoom calls as well as asynchronous communication pattern. So right now, the Zoom calls are too many each week, too many circles, too many Zoom calls, too many contexts, too many sensings, which is basically like everywhere. We need to channelize our energy to reflect, look back, retrospect. That's the question. Is the community willing to do that? What are the thoughts of others? Not Reiki, others as well.
John, you or
Oh, somebody calling me?
I don't know.
Well, Paulo's next.
Oh, Paulo's next.
No, you can go. You can go. I'll go next.
Okay. So I just wanted to first of all, Satya and I kind of represent the kinds of people that that first phase really wanted to bring in. We bought a lot of seeds. We brought our expertise in as much as we can into the innovation of the DNA. And we're now in the participation mode in Vilcabamba in Ecuador of creating local, a local economy.
Starting with tomorrow, we're going to the Saturday market to see how they're giving seeds away to people that spend a certain amount supporting the local vegetables. So that's what we're doing tomorrow.
And this sort of crisis and the fork and the all of that creates for the people in that in that community like a backing away, like really, seeds all of a sudden has no value, 1 penny, I don't know, maybe we should stop. So that how do we keep moving without putting fear into the local communities that are developing? That's one thing. The other is so in the question that Ari was asking, the question of can we afford to pause? And Reiki, what is it that puts urgency such that it feels like an ultimatum that we must get this done by December? Is it that there's no longer an economic engine fueling the work that people in Haifa and the other dues are engaged in, so that we can't continue the innovation unless we get an economic engine that allows people to pay for their basic expenses? What's the drive to get this done so quickly when I really appreciate Ari saying that, yeah, there's a lot that's been learned. Can we integrate it? And, that as a community, not as a few people who have understood what we're trying to do from the very beginning. So that's what I have.
Yeah, just one comment about that is, what I keep hearing is a change for myself in the framing of this as that was a question when we first entered into the space of seeds was, okay, we're going to invest in it. And there's this idea of how to get the seeds community going, the exchange and on the ground and locals involved. And then this idea of this group being the innovators. And when you said something, Reiki, about, we're really at the innovation stage, that, a little contrary to what you said or complement what you said, John, is that if we're in the innovator stage, based on your plan, your proposed plan, that we are okay if we're not inviting businesses at this stage, because we're still figuring it out. So it's hard for me to go out and talk about this in a way that I feel an embodied, yes, I've got it figured out and I know how to talk about it. I'm really passionate about it because we're still creating it. So it helped me, what you said, Reiki, about, I think I understood it right, is that there's the next stage is about enrolling businesses, and we're big enrollers, but I can't enroll unless I figure out and know what it is that I'm enrolling. So I kind of understand also the suggestion to put the campaign seeds into de-seeds a little bit, because we haven't quite figured out what the offer is. And that's important to kind of hold off on giving them out if we haven't quite figured out what it is. So, it kind of makes sense to me. And then John's question about, what is the urgency and what's generating this push for time? And maybe it is it's a concern to support people in their daily lives of needing to be paid so they can, live their lives, the people in Haifa and all the people contributing. So just putting that in. Thanks.
I want to give plenty of time for Paolo too, so I'm going to take just 2 seconds. This is the point of the roadmap, for us to ask these questions for each stage and find out what stage they actually belong in, if we are doing stages. Sense of urgency, that's super subjective. To me, this was 2 years of learning, so I don't think it's too urgent. This is something that I feel like has gone on for too long. So I think it depends on when you're coming into this. But yeah, it's really about evolving to the next stage. The community is ready for it. There's a lot of people here and hungry for it. And it's just about continuing with that momentum is how I see it. So I don't necessarily see it being urgent, but I do see it, if we don't act on it, then we have a chance of just fading away or derailing, which is kind of where I've seen just my own perspective happening the last few months, is a slow of momentum, kind of like going off course a little bit, a loss of enthusiasm for people. I was sensing that and seeing it happen. People are coming to me and being like, this isn't working the way I thought it was going to work. Like, these are all the problems, I'm leaving. And I don't see them being addressed. So that was kind of the fear that I was coming with, is because I was seeing that and I was like, oh no, like, okay, we need to course correct. And that was the energy. I was like, okay, well, let's try to get back on course. And, if you're on a train and you're driving off a cliff, like, there's a pretty big urgency to, slam the emergency brake and turn it around. So there's that level of urgency that if you're clear that we're going the wrong direction, let's turn it around. We need to go the right direction. But it's still a debate as if we are going in the wrong direction. Anyway, let's keep this conversation going, really alive, and we'll take it to the roadmap to break it out. Paolo.
So the first thing is, I want to bring a celebration of the proposal being here, otherwise we will not be having this sequence of discussions. But then I will be a little bit harsh on the proposal. The first thing that I would say is that I've been working and trying to understand pilots and trying to unfold this in my context and helping and understanding what others are doing. I don't see how this proposal empowers that. I really don't see. I really don't see how the proposal. I see the proposal solves a couple of technical issues that are, if you understand the framework of horizon of the 3 horizons, are horizon 1 problems. This is drawing us to the old system kind of economics, rather than creating a thing that has intrinsic value of our own. And I think we have the potential and the dream ability to do that. So I was trying to figure out what were the 2 things that fundamentally would inspire me on a journey map rather than a milestone that I would love and feel really attracted, that fundamentally is at the core of attract me to seeds. And the first thing is really understanding community. And we've been talking about paying attention to trust, reciprocity, to love, to care. This needs to be cornerstones of any milestone I would happily and motivatedly engage it in. There's nothing of such kind here. Quite the opposite. We are drawn to pay attention to things that I think are irrelevant and not supportive of local pilots. So the other thing that I think we need to do is we need to generate a regenerative journey. And this means that the values and systems we produce need to empower regeneration. We don't know that that's happening, but we know many of us are regenerating. And we need to unfold this as a sacred economy to support regenerators and to bring abundance to them, because there's no money to pay that, right? This is a completely different growing mechanism. This is a completely different communication strategy that we need to unfold. This is of a completely different nature. Now, when I look to the fundamentals of the economy that it's laid out, I can discuss if it should be different. I don't see it fundamentally wrong there. I don't see any reason to change it. Maybe we can fine tune it. Maybe we can try different things. We could even parallelize different experiments of that, right? There would be pros and cons on learning. They don't seem fundamental. They are just a proxy. They are just the means to an end. And I think we are fundamentally failing the end. So we need to put that in the roadmap. That needs to be the central thing of the roadmap, not the technicalities, not the economy, not the growth. That if I look at, I search for a figure of growth, and the figure of growth that we are putting there pretty much assembles from just looking at the pattern of the graphic, the growth of the economic system that we want to change. So there's something wrong there. If we're trying to design a system that from a pattern point of view looks pretty much the same. So what we really need is, how is this sacred economy helping people on the ground? And we've been having conversations that many of us paused doing activation in the ground because we think there are fundamentals of the overall design that are broken. Yet we've been doing promises of a certain kind and compromises of a certain kind that we are bound to. I feel bound to. And those need to be honored in integrity. And therefore, we cannot take this reset thing lightly, because we all bound to certain compromises. I don't see them reviewed in this roadmap, in this journey at all. So I think we need to really to go deep, and eventually a pause is what we need to be able really to understand from the feet on the ground what is needed really to make us thrive. And of course, part of that is moving, is shifting a lot of money that it's piled out, fiat money that it's piled out with no purpose, just going into speculation, just putting crypto crazy going up and down. We know that. Part of that is doing that, but it's doing that because of the value of us, not the value of a crypto. It's through the value of us that are committed to the things, that are here day upon day, and committed to do things that are relevant on our context. That's the true value. This crypto is backed by us, by the value of us, right? So why don't we put this at the central cornerstone of what we are doing? I don't understand it. And I think definitely we need this. And also we need to realize what was our thought process that lead us to arrive at these decisions, because that thought process is the thing that we need to shift. If we don't understand our thinking, if we don't build the ability to understand our thinking and to see where our thinking went wrong, and to build the capacity to do that, we will fail. That's hard, right? It's hard, and probably my thinking at this right moment is also wrong. So it's part of being humble in admitting that. But we need to come together and value the value of us. And that's what backs this economy. And the value of us will grow as many of us will feel attracted to do what we are aiming to do. And that's it. So I will stop. I think I spoke too much, but I had to speak.
just a quick reflection to ground that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Paula. And you bring up a point. It's saying, I have this incredible perspective that's super valuable and super authentic and right. And yes, and it's your gift to bring to this. If it already existed, then what would be your gift to bring? So that's what I'm saying. Like, the proposal was incomplete. I am approaching this from a bridge perspective, that Horizon 1 that you're speaking about. Because if we don't get the Horizon 1 right, we're not going to get to Horizon 2 and 3 anyway. We're going to fail in Horizon 0. But 2 and 3 are a more co-creative process. So it's not up to any small group to design 2 and 3 out. It's something for all of us to do with bringing in your wisdom, Paolo. So I deeply invite you to add sections to both the roadmap and the launch that integrate those fundamental changes you were saying were necessary to best support what you were seeing on the ground. That's so necessary. That's why there's gaps in both of these for that to be integrated. And I encourage everyone in the community to bring those perspectives to these documents, because there's no possible way for the people who created these to be able to integrate all that wisdom. It's just, we have the perspectives we have, right? So yeah, anyway, thank you for that, Paolo. I mean, that's, yes, and I'm gonna pass it to Mark.
I want to also give a heartfelt thank you to Paolo. We came together for 3 days, for hours each day, for many tens of people. I think there was up to almost 100 people at one point on these calls. So we've used the opportunity and the time and the energy of a lot of people for 3 days. We've also, prior to this, used the energy of the group discussing this with Reiki for a few weeks. And we didn't plan a month ago to say, all right, let's calibrate and let's ask the community if they are going to be available for this great expensive process together. It's expensive for all of these kind people and beautiful people to get together. And we want to use and harvest from this a value equal to the expense of all of us being here to get to today and through this whole process. And that's what's going on in Seeds globally for months and years now, is that people keep coming together to do something powerful. And it's not about the technical details. And that was my strong opposition to this particular fork transition, is that it focused on the technical details without finding what the real tension and heart and digestion is first. The technical details, I felt should come after. I'm good at technical details and I'm happy to help with technical details, but that's not what I was feeling we needed. So from this, I would like us to, honor and to remind ourselves of what a gift we've given to each other by taking our time and doing this very valuable thing. And we need to design what comes next. And designing doesn't happen in a Zoom session of 100 people. So I really think that the genesis, the little tiny seed that's in the proposal to create the Seeds Commons can somehow be a container for some work. I think the amazing exploration groups inside of Renaissance Explorers can be, a place for work to happen. And we need to take all of the learning and all the wisdom that's come out of this. I continually thank Terry Molnar for the ways that he's inspired me to think about these things as to how does a group and a community come together to efficiently do stuff, to prioritize assets and resources, to prioritize people. And the fact that on the ground pilots, that's where we really learn. Franz and Lisa brought all of that wisdom, very beautifully into our conversations too. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, for continuing to show up, and that I think the community needs to improve in our efficiency. Storytelling and why we do things has to be paramount. That's where a huge investment is missing right now. so that we know and share the value of the community. I said many times, the most important thing we've created so far is just the community. I also happen to think that the heart that's embedded in the Constitution is a huge, valuable creation that has come out of this so far. So that's how I wanted to leave it. You know, I really do deeply care about the economics. I deeply care about the tokenomics. I can speak individually with people when people want to know stuff. But for me, it's about the community and about the pilot implementations on the ground and making sure that we're sharing resources and funneling them in a way that can really create change. That's what Reiki was also saying, where the story for all of this is because we want a new planet for our kids and our grandkids and 7 generations.
Oh, well, I borrowed 15 minutes extra from you all today. It's been 6 hours and some change over the last few days. And I'm sure you're all feeling it's just as overwhelmed as I might be feeling. There was a lot that was uncovered. And maybe in our upcoming roundtables, we have a clearer format that maybe seems maybe more overwhelming, maybe less, but we'll see how that evolves. So most of the real work is going to go on the docs on all of them. So we're going to open up commenting as well on the launch proposal, so we can just comment right on the doc itself and be able to capture that wisdom and to be able to do the same on the roadmap. So that's where the real effort going forward is going to be, in grounding this and grounding the next steps. Yeah, and it's just been an incredible journey. It's a little bit after midnight for me, so my brain is going to sleep. So I will stop talking now, and you all can open up your mic. If anyone else has anything else they want to share, feel free to start doing so. Feel free to open it up, say goodbye, say whatever your heart's calling you to say, and we'll send you off for a beautiful day. Thank you, Dion.
Love.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.